It's the first day of August and I have just one question for you. How is that mid-year reset going? You stopped working out after 3 days, you trash your room after a week, you ignore the online course that you signed up for. Oh, I mean, it's just one day, I can skip just for today. But that one day turned into weeks, and those weeks turned into months. And now the all too familiar feelings of shame, disappointment, self-loathing, they're all back. And they're always going to be back because you never follow through with anything. And it's not like you don't want to do all those things. You desperately want to. And I know that you want to do it because I wanted to do those things. I hated myself for setting goals and never being able to see them through. I hated that I couldn't commit to anything for more than a week. And what I hated the most was the fact that I could always somehow find an excuse to justify my behavior. And my inability to see my goals through absolutely was not an issue of me not wanting more for myself, because I obviously did. But the thing is, in that moment, I was already committed to something else entirely. And that thing was my ingrained identity. Your ingrained identity is a repository of all the habits and all the patterns you have exhibited throughout your life to this day. All your little quirks, all the things that you've been doing repeatedly for an extended period of time, the thought patterns you've been having all over your life, the words that you've been speaking throughout your life, all of those things encompass your ingrained identity. We can also call it the foreknown self. Basically, it's the you backed by historical evidence. Now, here's what you need to know. First of all, your commitment to this foreknown self, it really isn't entirely your fault. It's a dominantly involuntary action that your brain deploys as a self-preservation tactic. Now remember, this identity is backed by years of continuous evidence. To your psyche, it's not just you doing those things or taking those actions. Those things are literally you. And one of your mind's main tasks is to keep you alive. So because you're psychologically perceiving those actions, or in your case, inactions, as who you are, any threat to them directly translates as a threat to you. Ergo, I won't let you get erased is what your mind is trying to tell you when it deploys the usual tactics to try to get you to fall off the wagon. And that's why it's particularly dangerous to keep saying things like, oh, I'm so lazy, I'm so inconsistent, because that's you personifying those things, and the person they're becoming is you. And obviously, you can see why that's a bad idea. And sometimes it isn't even about your foreknown self or your ingrained identity, because maybe you've triumphed over that conditioning, which if you have, props to you. And if you haven't, we'll get into that later, don't worry. But let's say you're no longer identifying with your foreknown and it's been finally put to rest, but you still find yourself giving out after weeks or months of consistency. That might be because you're running on the wrong fuel. For most people, the fuel that they run on is motivation. You watched that reel and you got fired up. You saw those mid-year resets and you thought to yourself, I can do that too. Which is all like, it's fine and dandy, but in the long run, it's unsustainable. Wildly and unfortunately unsustainable. And I hate to be a David Downer, but you're going to give up eventually. Sorry. It's like this. You're powering a motorbike or whatever with that blue stuff that Turbo drank, doing tricks around your orbs. And one fine summer day, just like him, you will crash and burn after you get body checked by a little something that I like to call the high wearing off. And it will be brutal and possibly leave you even worse than before until the next great funk edit comes your way and restarts that vicious cycle all over again. When you get motivated, the internet's favorite anti-hero, dopamine, makes an appearance, and she comes out swinging, setting fireworks and lighting up your brain. She's a showgirl, she performs. The reason why is that there's so much anticipation around that new thing you're going to acquire at the end of whatever it is that you feel motivated to do. The body you're going to have after your consistent workouts, the glass skin after you're eating healthy, the ability to communicate better after you learn that language. It's less about the thing itself and more about the fact that the process is also new and exciting. Now, naturally, as you continue to do these things and execute those new habits, your brain starts to get more and more familiarized with the outcome and things start to get predictable. That's why the first day you work out, you're so excited about the burns and you love it, and everything is all great and dandy. But by the third time, you're wondering, what what the hell is even this? Like, why am I doing this? The dopamine isn't showing up anymore. The high is gone. The motivation has worn off. And because that's all you had, you're back to square one. If you're lucky. If you're not, which most people are not, you might just fall off the board indefinitely. Now that we have all that sorted and discussed, what do we actually do to jump off these hurdles when we come to them? We deploy the ACE protocol. Remember when I said we were going to deal with your ingrained identity? Now's the time to listen up. So the audit step is going to help you get rid of it. All you're going to do is take some time to meticulously record all of your thoughts and all of your actions that are relevant to the habit or habits that you're trying to cultivate. And keep in mind, this isn't just a one-off journal entry. No shame to journalists, because I love journaling. But what we are doing right now is a comprehensive study of our inner narratives, and this will take a fair amount of time. I recommend about a week at the least, so you have a fair bit of information to go on. So like I said, basically you're just going to write down all of your thoughts and habits, but you're going to pay particular and special attention to the personified ones. Try to get those ones down as much as you can, because those are going to be the key markers that we need to look out for. After you find them, you're going to get the recurring themes and the habits, and when you get those, you need to really put your mind and make a conscious effort to minimize and remedy them as much as you can. Verbally say out loud and reject them. Science proves that saying something out loud creates new neural pathways in your brain, and those are going to be the things that ingrain the new habits that we're trying to get. Now, I know this isn't easy and it sounds like a drag, but do you know what's even more of a drag? Being a loser bum, okay? Pick a struggle. Now, when we're done with the audit, we're going to move on to the C, which is conviction. This is the step that's going to help us solve our terrible problem. And I find the word conviction so interesting and perfect for us in this situation, because it has two definitions. So the first one is a legal conviction, which obviously someone who's been found guilty and incarcerated, thereby becoming a convict. And then on the second hand, we can have it mean a staunch and unshakable belief. Now we're going to be embodying both of those things, okay? Because just like the convict has no freedom to say go to the cafeteria or like walk around on their own time, you have no freedom to decide to stick to your goals as and when you please. And that starts like right now. You don't want to work out tomorrow, you're too tired and your legs and no, are you crazy? No. Convicted. Get your mat, okay? Open that laptop, break out the pots, cook. You don't have a choice unless it's a life-threatening situation like fire, flood, or an act of God. You are doing that thing. You're doing it. No excuses. And if you can't do it all the way, you can't do it in the most ideal way that you envisioned, do what you can. 1 is less than 10, but it's infinitely more than 0. So we're going to take it. And 9 times out of 10, not executing at capacity makes you less likely to repeat that. If you need someone to help you stay convicted, get an accountability partner. It really helps. It's even better when you find someone who's working towards a similar goal, so that you can be each other's keeper, basically. If you can't find an accountability partner, put your goal in the comments and I personally will be on your neck. That's a promise. Now, the last thing we need to do is keep our habits evergreen. It's completely natural to eventually get bored of something when you're doing it the exact same way, the exact same time, every time. The monopoly takes a toll, and then you just find yourself like hating everything altogether. Find something that makes it new when you start to find yourself resenting the process of finding it monotonous in some way. Now, this was a whole lot of yap, okay? And if you're like me, you like to have something that you can read, a resource that actually walks you through step by step everything that you're supposed to do. And I've made one for you that you can get in the description, okay? This has everything that you need to make sure that you never fall off ever in your life again. So check that out in the description. And remember that you do not have to be limited by your past or your circumstances, and that change comes from a conscious choice. And I hope I've inspired you to make one today towards your